New York Giants could be the worst team in the NFL. Yes, I think the New York Giants actually could be the worst run organization in the National Football League. Tonight, the New York Giants play the Washington Football Team in a huge battle for the NFC East. But what I want to talk about is why I believe the New York Giants have become the worst run team in the league. There are plenty of other candidates, but I think I have some pretty good arguments to make in this video. Their recent Super Bowl success would say otherwise, however, but just the way the New York Giants have been playing as of recently and the roster decisions they have made over the past couple of years has really raised my concerns. I have some compelling arguments to make. I think I might have you convinced after some of the things I share. So if you are a Giants fan, I'm sorry, but if you are not a Giants fan, well, sit back and relax, and this is why the New York Giants are the worst run team in the NFL. But first, if you could hit that subscribe button for me and also leave a like on this video, it really helps out the channel, also helps out with the algorithm. And lastly, hit me up over on Twitter where I talk about all things sports. So the New York Giants are considered by many one of the most historic franchises in the NFL and maybe even in all of sports. And there's a good reason for this. As of more recently, the Giants have been toward the bottom of the league when it comes to winning percentage, and they just can't seem to get themselves out of the mud. The New York Giants are one of the biggest brands in all of the NFL. City-wise in New York, the name, how much they're worth, and the Super Bowls that they have. I mean, for a team that has won the second most Super Bowls since 2006, besides the New England Patriots, how on earth could I call them the most dysfunctional team in the league? Well, a lot can change between now and then, and maybe those rings are the reason why I think they are the worst run team, because of how far they have fallen from the great success they have had. Currently, the New York Giants are a mess. Maybe the biggest mess in the NFL. They don't have the quarterback of the future like the Jags or Bengals. They don't have a franchise QB on their bench who isn't playing like the Houston Texans. And if we are being honest, they currently are a bottom 5 team in the league. They can't even win the worst division in the NFL. Now, the NFL season has already started, and watching the Giants open their season getting beat down at home by the Broncos shows just how bad it is there. This is one of the biggest franchises in all of sports. They have a deep history with Hall of Fame talent and great coaches, and most importantly, play in a big market like New York City. But the Giants have not had a winning season since 2016, when they went 11-5, and it's not looking like they're going to have one this year. And that was the only time they've made the postseason since winning the Super Bowl back in 2012. And over the past 4 seasons, they have won 18 games, including a 6-10 mark last season. Now, I'm going to mention a couple of issues that are currently plaguing this team. And really, it starts with the quarterback position. Daniel Jones just doesn't seem to be the answer. Yes, there's been some flashes of good potential there. It's the turnovers that have killed Daniel Jones' career. He has 40 turnovers in 28 career games, and 30 of those are fumbles. Basically, they drafted another Eli. Okay, just kidding. They drafted a Jameis Winston, but worse. Jameis looks really good right now. I don't think we're going to see that out of Daniel Jones, that turnaround. The Giants currently are in the position that the Jets were in under Sam Darnold. Kind of just need to start over and start with something fresh. I definitely didn't hate Daniel Jones, but we're just not seeing the progression from him, even if they did just play a top defense in the Broncos. There are plenty of concerns, but that's not the only concern with the team. They also haven't been able to find the right head coach after Tom Coughlin, who was let go in 2015. They've been through 4 coaches if you count Steve Spagnuolo, Ben McAdoo, Pat Shurmur, and now Joe Judge. Now, Joe Judge isn't a bad coach in my opinion. I think he's actually pretty decent. It's just the things that have happened this past offseason, like the fights at practice that have been constantly happening, also making coaches run laps after not doing stuff correctly. I don't know, it just doesn't sound like things are going great there. Also, having Jason Garrett as your offensive coordinator, I mean, come on. You can't have Jason Garrett as your offensive coordinator and expect to be a top team in the league. Jason Garrett just doesn't have it as a coach anymore with his offensive schemes. He's definitely still clapping on the sidelines, but they're just not getting any results, and Daniel Jones is not progressing as a quarterback. And then when it comes to the guy making the roster decisions, Dave Gettleman was hired in 2017, and literally every draft pick and the dudes that he has chosen to pay in free agency have not worked out. He has a horrible 15-33 record in his 3 seasons, and just all of the moves this man has made have just been disastrous to say the least. Again, his draft selections, his free agent signings. I mean, Will Hernandez, a 34th pick in 2018, not a good guard. Even DeAndre Baker, who was chosen before him, was released after being arrested for armed robbery, even if the charges were later dropped. I mean, they gave Nate Solder $62 million, and he's been literally one of the worst tackles in the league, maybe the worst. That was a terrible contract. And then now, as of recently, drafting Kadarius Toney with the number 20 pick after trading out of an opportunity at getting Justin Fields. Again, things have just not gone great, and even if they are trying to make things better for Daniel Jones in 2021 because they spent a lot of money in free agency, they spent $125 million this spring, giving $45 million guaranteed to Leonard Williams, $40 million to Kenny Golladay, $26.5 to Adoree Jackson, and $7 million to Kyle Rudolph. I mean, they spent a lot of money, But usually when you're spending that much money in free agency, it's because you haven't drafted very well. So now they haven't drafted well. They're also spending a bunch of money on players that probably just won't pan out to the money that they gave them. And they have the worst offensive line in the league and a quarterback who can't stop turning it over. There is just no sign of progression with this team, and it seems like they're just setting them back every single year. Like last year, there were some signs of positivity, but they might even take a bigger step back this year. But it all comes back to ownership, because that's the person that is employing all of these people. And one of the most valuable franchises in all of sports on the planet, the Giants are operated by John Mara and Steve Tisch, but mostly the day-to-day operations is run by John Mara. Steve Tisch does own 50% of the Giants, and I think they're the only team in the NFL with 2 owners, but John Mara runs day-to-day operations, and he is at the practices, he's in the meetings. Even if he does let his football people run the team, he's the one that's there. Tisch isn't as involved. He's taken an even bigger step back because of a tragedy that happened within his family. So John Mara and company are really steering this ship, and they're not steering it in the right direction. And one of the common issues with John Mara is that he just can't seem to fire people. He has this old way of thinking. It's kind of like Mike Brown and the Bengals, even if he does spend money, but he just won't move on from Dave Gettleman. Also just made comments recently about the new taunting rules and how he is for them, and I just think those taunting rules are so stupid. But he just has not been able to evaluate his team properly, and that's where I get concerned, is because I don't know if it's going to get any better. Maybe they actually move on from Dave Gettleman after this season, because I don't expect things to go very well for them. The NFC East looks a lot better this year, actually, now that Dallas is healthy. We'll see what Jalen Hurts can do. He looks better. And also Washington, I mean, they made the playoffs last year, so this definitely won't be a cakewalk like it was last year, and they couldn't even make the playoffs then. Like, this team should be in a much better situation based on their value. I mean, they legit practice right next to their stadium, where the Jets, who I think are in a much better position, practice nowhere near MetLife Stadium and practice all the way in New Jersey. I don't understand what they're doing wrong there at the Meadowlands. At MetLife Stadium this past Sunday, there were maggots found in ketchup sold at MetLife Stadium for hot dogs. Can you believe that? It really is showing just how bad the situation there is. I mean, the Giants have also had turf issues with their stadium. I mean, this organization is just a mess. It seems like they keep running into a wall without a door, thinking that somehow it will magically open. You can't be losing double-digit games over and over again. I think you're going in the right direction. Now, the Giants in their history have had a dark period, which was from 1964 to 1980, and that was before Bill Parcells arrived and he cleaned things up. But I think that they're actually stuck in another one of these ruts, because they just can't get past their old ways of doing things and living in the past and thinking that eventually something's going to work, because it's just not true. Again, based on the Giants brand, everything about them, their location and their value, it's just stunning that things are so bad right now there. I mean, I can understand with some of the other teams I mentioned, because they're much smaller markets or newer teams in the league, and they don't have that very extensive history like the Giants, but they just really aren't talked about enough as one of the most dysfunctional teams in the NFL. And I think that they're getting more exposed every single year that goes by, and things just aren't getting fixed. So if you're a Giants fan or just an NFL fan, let me know down in the comment section what you think about the New York Giants and how dysfunctional they are. Are they ever going to get this turned around? Is Daniel Jones the answer? And what are your thoughts on Dave Gettleman? Again, I don't hate Joe Judge, but I just don't know if he has enough tools around him on his team to really improve things. There were signs of improvement last year, which I thought was because of good coaching, but it just seems like the Giants have set themselves back another year after spending so much money in free agency. So that's going to do it for this video. Again, thank you so much for watching. Also, leave a like on this video and hit that subscribe button for me. It really helps out the channel. You can also hit me up over on Twitter, where I talk about everything sports related. I'm sorry, Giants fans, things have just not been going well. Maybe one day things will get turned around. I just don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.